Hi, this is Amar, and welcome to Field Notes, short thoughts and observations about video games. Today we'll be talking about driving the California highway in Project Cars, and the philosophy of racing. Now if you want an opinion on how Project Cars stacks up as a sim, I'm not the most qualified person to go to. Despite owning some expensive hardware, I'd still consider myself a casual driving fan. I can't feel out driving lines without assistance, and my braking and cornering technique leave a lot to be desired. What I am interested in is how games attempt to replicate and interpret the act of driving. With increased technological abilities of computers, many games have opted to approach this in a very literal way, taking strict measurements and calculations to the point of even laser scanning famous courses. This approach doesn't work well outside of very controlled conditions, so the more simulation-focused titles often stick to what they know, revisiting familiar courses in an attempt to replicate the highs their enthusiast audiences desire to return to. In doing so, a lot of these games seem to fail to communicate the simple joy of driving. They rely on your pre-existing passion for racing, for running to the edge of performance, for the machines themselves, to carry you all the way through. That's something that I felt initially with Project Cars as well. This is a game that was built with and for the racing community, and its vision is notably tailored to them. It makes some concessions towards accessibility, but they underwhelm. There's a lack of finesse to this that's provided that does a lot to dampen the experience of driving. Again, that's fine. It's not something their audience expects. What's more disappointing is the feeling that it doesn't have a persuasive vision. There's this grand sense of style and refinement that you can see carried over from Slightly Mad Studios' work with projects like Ferrari Racing Legends or Need for Speed Shift, but it doesn't have a desire to bring in those who don't already care. With games like Ferrari 355 Challenge or Outrun, you got a sense of producer Yu Suzuki's passion for those machines. It made you want to understand why he loved them so much. It made you want to replicate the feelings that you could see went into those games. What Project Cars does have is extensive customization. So with that, I took to the California highway, one of its original tracks, and spent a week driving it exclusively. For me, this was the closest that Project Cars came to capturing the simple joy of driving. It felt like a tangible place, one where you could enjoy the pleasures of simply moving from one place to another. This was hampered somewhat by the need to fit it within the structure of a race. There's no option for traffic, of course, and attempting to race others on it turns it into a very stressful chore. It was only when I removed the HUD elements, played with weather, and took a night drive at my own pace that the feeling I was searching for started to manifest. The way rain played across the windshield, the sound of raindrops on the roof, it felt familiar to my own experiences driving across the state. Your thoughts begin to wander, and there's this aching need to keep moving, to get lost on the road. For all the bombast of its presentation, this was where Project Cars was most evocative, in the subdued night driving on California. For the first time, I began to feel what the creators wanted to communicate to me. But I also understood that this was the end of what there was here for me. I had reached the end of the highway's 13 miles, and my trip was over.